Welcome, adventurers and story lovers, to a journey to the top of the world. Today, we're not just climbing Mount Everest. We're exploring the razor-thin line that separates ultimate triumph from heart-wrenching tragedy. On these unforgiving slopes, where the air is thin and the stakes are the highest, every choice matters. These are the stories of those who reached for the heavens but were claimed by the mountain, each tale a stark reminder that Everest always has the final say. The story of Ethan Larson is a chilling lesson in the danger of underestimating the mountain. It was May 14, 2016, a day that dawned with brutal clarity on the upper reaches of Everest. Ethan, a fit and determined 33-year-old from Colorado, was making his summit push. He was a purist, someone who believed that experiencing the raw, unfiltered power of the mountain was the only true way to climb. To him, goggles were a barrier, a filter that dulled the magnificent, terrifying beauty of the world above 27,000 feet. He wanted to feel the sting of the wind, to see the endless sea of clouds with his own eyes, unobscured. So, his expensive, state-of-the-art goggles remained clipped to his harness, unused. But at that altitude, the sun is not just a source of light. It's a relentless weapon. The atmosphere is so thin that it offers little protection from the sun's intense ultraviolet radiation, which reflects off the blinding white snow with ferocious intensity. As Ethan ascended past the balcony, he began to feel a gritty, sandpaper-like sensation in his eyes. The world started to blur, the sharp outlines of the ice and rock softening into a hazy, indistinct landscape. This was the onset of severe snow blindness. The pain grew excruciating, like hot needles piercing his corneas. Soon, he could barely distinguish the route ahead. His vision was reduced to a milky, white void. Disoriented and in agony, he stumbled away from the fixed ropes that guided climbers safely along the ridge. He was lost in a world of white, just a few hundred feet from the path. Other climbers on their own desperate journeys up or down passed by, each focused on their own survival. Later, a descending Sherpa team found him. Ethan Larson was gone, his body frozen solid. His eyes, which he had wanted to keep open to the world, were clouded a ghostly white. His goggles, the simple piece of gear that would have saved his life, were still attached to his harness, a silent testament to a fatal misjudgment. On Everest, arrogance doesn't just bruise the ego. It can be a death sentence. 2 years later, another modern ambition led to a similar, tragic end. Jason Kearney was a 29-year-old tech vlogger from Seattle, a rising star in the world of online adventure content. For him, climbing Everest wasn't just a personal goal. It was the ultimate content creation opportunity. He had trained for years, but his most prized piece of equipment wasn't his ice axe or his oxygen system. It was a cutting-edge, high-altitude drone. He dreamed of capturing sweeping, cinematic shots from the summit ridge, footage no one had ever seen before. On May 21, 2018, he was in the death zone, above 26,000 feet. The weather was holding, but the notorious jet stream that swirls around Everest's peak is wildly unpredictable. As he stood on a small ledge, he launched his drone. It buzzed to life, ascending into the thin air, capturing breathtaking images of the Himalayas stretching to the horizon. Jason was elated, watching the live feed on his controller. This was his moment. Then, without warning, the winds shifted. A powerful gust, a mere whisper of the jet stream's true power, snatched the drone. It bucked and spun, fighting against the invisible force. Jason watched in horror as his expensive piece of technology was swept away, disappearing into the vast, churning clouds. In that split second, a devastating choice was made. Panic and adrenaline surged through him. Instinct took over. He unclipped his carabiner from the safety of the fixed rope, the lifeline that connects every climber to the mountain. He started scrambling after the drone, as if he could somehow chase it down in the most hostile environment on Earth. He was chasing a ghost, a piece of technology, in a place where every ounce of energy is precious, every step a calculated risk. Days later, a search party found him. He had collapsed not far from the route, his oxygen cylinder empty. In his gloved hands, he still clutched the drone controller, its screen dark and lifeless. Jason Kearney's final, ambitious image was never captured. Everest claimed him in broad daylight, a victim of a modern obsession, a tragic footnote in the endless pursuit of the perfect shot. The quest for the perfect image also sealed the fate of British photographer Thomas Wainwright in 2017. Thomas was an artist with an obsession for light. He wasn't just a climber. He was a landscape photographer renowned for his daring compositions. His goal on Everest was to capture the sunrise from a unique, unheard-of vantage point. On April 3rd, while acclimatizing at Camp 2, he scouted a location that he believed would offer a spectacular frame. It was a massive, overhanging snowdrift known as a cornice, jutting out over a sheer 1,000-foot drop. Experienced climbers know to give these features a wide berth. They are notoriously unstable, like a trapdoor made of ice and snow. But for Thomas, the risk was outweighed by the potential reward. A photo of the sunrise illuminating the peak from an angle no one had ever dared to shoot. That night, against the strenuous advice of his Sherpa guide, he pitched his small, single-person tent just a few feet from the edge of the cornice. He wanted to be ready to start filming the second the first light kissed the horizon. As dawn approached, he was inside his tent, his camera rolling, capturing the pre-dawn glow. What happened next was recorded by that very camera. The footage, recovered later from the battered device, is haunting. It begins with the gentle flapping of the tent fabric in the wind. Then, a deep, groaning crack echoes. The view lurches violently downwards. The screen fills with a chaotic blur of snow, ice, and sky, spinning uncontrollably for a few terrifying seconds. The sound of shredding fabric and rushing wind is all that can be heard. Then an abrupt, final thud, and then silence. The lens, miraculously intact, continued to record, capturing only the serene, silent drift of snowflakes in the dark. The entire cornice had collapsed, plunging Thomas and his tent 200 feet down a hidden crevasse. His body was never found. His final, terrifying frame became his epitaph, a permanent record of a moment where artistic vision collided with the brutal laws of physics. Sometimes, it's not a quest for a new perspective, but a search for a shortcut that leads to disaster. Robert Hensley was a seasoned mountaineer, a veteran of several 8,000-meter peaks. He was leading a commercial expedition in April 2015, guiding clients through the most dangerous section of the Everest climb, the Khumbu Icefall. The Icefall is a chaotic, ever-shifting glacier, a maze of towering ice seracs and deep crevasses. The established route is marked by ropes and ladders, a path carefully chosen by the Icefall doctors, a team of specialized Sherpas who find the safest possible way through the labyrinth. But the route is often long and congested. On April 18th, Robert grew impatient with the slow-moving line of climbers ahead. Confident in his experience, he made a fateful decision. He spotted what he believed was a quicker, more direct line through a section of the Icefall. He instructed his team of 3 clients and 2 Sherpas to unclip from the main line and follow him. It was a deviation of only a few hundred yards. For a few minutes, it seemed his gamble had paid off. They moved quickly, bypassing the queue, but the Khumbu icefall is a living, breathing entity. The shortcuts are shortcuts for a reason. They are unvetted and unstable. As they navigated between two massive ice towers, a deafening crack split the air. An enormous serac, a block of ice the size of a multi-story building, calved off the slope above them. It didn't just fall, it exploded, sending an avalanche of ice blocks, some as large as cars, cascading down upon them. It was over in seconds. The shortcut became a tomb. Robert Hensley and his entire team were buried instantly under tons of ice. There were no survivors, no chance of rescue. On Everest, the path of least resistance is often the path to oblivion. Shortcuts don't save time, they erase lives. Our final story takes us to the summit itself, the place every climber dreams of, but a place where lingering is lethal. On May 29, 2021, 4 climbers Sanjay Ritesh and 2 others achieved their lifelong goal. They stood on top of the world, but they had made a critical error. They arrived late in the afternoon. The golden rule of Everest is to be on the summit by midday at the latest, to allow enough daylight and oxygen for the long, arduous descent. But instead of immediately starting down, they lingered. They were caught up in the euphoria of the moment, the overwhelming emotion of having reached the planet's highest point. They pulled out their phones. They started filming video clips for their families, posing for photos, and even attempting to livestream from the summit. Each minute spent celebrating was a minute borrowed from their survival budget. As they filmed, the weather, which had been clear, began to turn. Dark, ominous clouds boiled up from the valleys below. The wind picked up, howling across the summit ridge. The temperature plummeted. By the time they finally turned to descend, a full-blown storm had engulfed the peak. Visibility dropped to near zero. The trail they had followed up was completely obscured by driving snow. Panic set in. In the chaos, the group became separated. 2 of the climbers, through sheer luck and determination, managed to fight their way down to the relative safety of Camp 4. But Sanjay and Ritesh were not so fortunate. Days later, after the storm cleared, a rescue team found them. They were frozen, still roped together, just below the summit. Their phones were recovered. The final footage was a testament to their tragic end, a screen filled with a blur of windswept snow, the lens slowly being covered. Their voices, once jubilant, now frantic and desperate, eventually drowned out by the roar of the wind. On Everest, the summit isn't the finish line. It's only the halfway point. From snow blindness, born of arrogance, to a fatal chase after technology, from the lure of a perfect photo to the temptation of a shortcut and the deadly delay of summit fever, these stories are etched into the history of Everest. They serve as a powerful reminder that the mountain does not forgive vanity, impatience, or Reaching the top is an incredible feat, but true success is measured by returning home. Survival depends not on the strength to ascend, but on the wisdom and humility to descend safely. Here, on the roof of the world, triumph and tragedy are forever separated by a single decision, a single breath, a single step. Thank you for joining us on this solemn journey. If these stories moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more explorations into the world's most compelling adventures. Stay safe and stay curious.